a week on Alexander Mayling's boat. Should be great fun. Rusty and I everywhere together, but never before at sea. May I come in? Rusty, dear, this is a surprise. What can I do for you?
It's 8:45, which is 45 minutes past 8.
It is. Well, time certainly does fly, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. You writing something, dear?
No, of course not. Just practicing my typing. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Now then, why don't I make us a nice cup of tea? Isn't that a good idea? If you'll excuse me, I'll just put the kettle on. Well, the day certainly has been fraught, hasn't it?
Yes, it has, dear. And I have a strange feeling it's going to get even fraughter, which may make it the fraughtiest, wouldn't it?
Quell drama of ours, and how poor Charlie would have enjoyed such a scene like this. His widow, and his mistress, face to face. Still, I imagine just having been one of Charlie's girls must have carried with it a certain distinction.
Like getting the seal of acceptance from Good Housekeeping magazine.
Cheers.
Cheers. Look, dear, I think we've just about had it, don't you? Social anonymity-wise. What I mean is, why don't we get to the point?
Alrighty. You know, I've been dying to say that for years, but I've never had the courage. Alrighty. What an absolutely nauseating expression. I'm sorry, dear. You had some sort of point that you were trying to make? What was it?
Your friend George said he was going to handle this, but never showed up, so I decided to handle it myself. The point is, I'm not going to sit still for anything as corny as blackmail. I don't know what the matter with me was back there at the restaurant. I must have been out of my mind.
Actually, I was surprised myself. I never thought for a minute you'd go for it. Janie and Franny, sure, they still have something to lose, but not you.
I don't know about that. After I left here this afternoon, I went back to the hotel and called Marilyn.
You didn't.
I did. Do you mind, dear?
Of course not, dear.
Thank you. It was the first time I'd talked to him since the night it happened. And you know something? He was really kind of sweet in his miserable Hungarian way. Actually, I think he's almost ready to take me back. I mean, there he is in his great big house, up to his ears in laundry and everything.
And you want to be taken back?
Of course I do. That's why there just can't be any more publicity, if you know what I mean, dear.
Isn't that funny? I just assumed you were more or less reconciled to getting divorced after all the Charlie business.
Look, honey, I don't know where you've been all these years, but let me wise you up. Tell you a little few facts of life. I'm spoiled. I've spent 5 years as Mrs. Alexander Marilyn. That's the only thing I am. I can't go back now and start all over again. I'll be 33 years old next month. No, that's a lie. I'll be 34. And in this town, do you know what that means? It means I'm an old bag. But I'm an old bag who happens to be Mrs. Alexander Marilyn. Mrs. Somebody. Not plain Mrs. Somebody, Mrs. Somebody. A very subtle but elaborate difference. So let's say Marilyn won't take me back, and we do get divorced. For the first few weeks, I get asked out a lot. Everybody's very loyal, got to do what we can for poor old Rusty. Anyhow, they're kind of curious, want to see how I'm taking it. Then, pretty soon, the novelty wears off. You see, I'm not Mrs. Alexander Marilyn anymore. I'm just me. Then 6 months from now, Marilyn gets married again, and now there's a new Mrs. Alexander Marilyn. Then you know what happens? My God, we just can't ask Rusty. It would be just too tense for poor Ricky, or Ginger, or Peaches, or whatever the new Mrs. Alexander Marilyn is called. So then I'm through. And there was a crazy minute or so when I might have tossed it all away if Charlie had asked me to.
Okay, let's stop you here.
Did.